Our speaker this morning graduated from Ripley High School in 1992. He earned a master's degree in history and political science at Marshall, a doctorate in history at West Virginia University. 10 years, 5 of them at Potomac State. He served as director of academic programs for the National Center in Washington, D.C. for 3 years. He has presented at the Society of Military History, the Virginia Forum, and elsewhere, and has had in the Journal of the Alleghenies, Human Events, the State Journal, Jackson View Town Hall, Daily Caller, and Gatehouse Media newspapers. He is currently the Eastern Panhandle Mooney, based in Martinsburg. His wife Crystal joins him this morning, and they have 2 children and live in Kaiser. Please give a warm welcome this morning to our speaker, Dr.
Thank you all very much for making me feel very welcome. Before I get started, I want to thank the American Legion for inviting me. It is an honor, privilege to meet with all of you. You all are the future wealth producers, the future businessmen, educators, elected officials, and others who are going to help to serve as the backbone of this state, its future leadership, and its future prosperity. I know you'll look back on this week as being part of the foundation of whatever future success that you have in life. Now, a huge part of that is what you learn from probably one of the most impressive lists of speakers that you'll find anywhere. I mean, you got to hear Senator Capito, one of the most respected new members of the U.S. Senate. You heard also from 3-term Congressman David McKinley. Gordon Gee, recognized in the nation as one of the finest grant university leaders. Commissioner Walt Helmick, who's done so many amazing things to promote agriculture, tourism, and business with the state. And now you get to hear from me, a guy you've never heard of before in your entire life. But the great thing is that it's a rule of politics that being the final speaker in the catbird seat. You have the best chance to really make a good final impression. And the great thing is that every single one of you wake up at the crack of dawn when the rooster crows with one thought in mind, that you cannot wait to hear the breakfast speaker. That you can't wait to get the words and wisdom of someone like me. So I feel honored to be that guy today. Now, I have the privilege of coming here on behalf of 2nd District Congressman Alex Mooney. First, I want to express his sincere regret that he was not able to all this week. They've had some pretty tough issues in Congress regarding trade this week, and he had to be present and all that. He understands the work that goes into being here, the character that you have shown to end up being here, and he does, like I said, he regrets not being able to join you this week. But first, I do want to speak a little about the Congressman's backstory because it's unique, interesting, and it kind of tells you a little bit about this wonderful country. Like many of us here, his family came to America in recent generations. His mother and her family, they came from Cuba over 50 years ago. Not necessarily by choice. It was under terrible circumstances because you see, for generations, Congressman Mooney's family, they had meticulously and carefully built farms and businesses in Cuba. Then, as most of you know, 1959, 1960, a communist tyrant, Fidel, took over the government, and when he took over the government, when he took power, he also took people's, he took their farms, he took their businesses. Imagine your entire family's legacy swept away. And then if you dare say anything about it, you get thrown in prison, which is exactly what happened to Congressman Mooney's mother and her family. They were tossed into prison. So eventually Castro kicked them out of the country. They landed on America's shores with nothing but the shirts on their backs. Well, I shouldn't say nothing but the shirts, because they also had powerful Christian faith, and they had a American dream. So they put that faith and that belief to work. So within 2 generations of coming here with nothing, a new country, new language, and nothing, they have a United States family, they have a former mayor of Miami in their family, they have Ivy League professors in their family. So what it shows is that we live in such an exceptional nation. Who come here with almost no advantages. They come here, they that way, they obey the laws. They can reach the heights. And you all can too. Just never forget that this is an exceptional country, a wonderful place, and you all have so many opportunities. And I hope that you all are able to take full advantage of them as you go forward in the next several years and the rest of your life. I also want to mention Congressman Mooney's father. He helped to defend our nation's freedom by his arms in Vietnam, and that should always be respected. Now we come to the reason that I'm here today. To try to convince you that politics, working in politics or public policy, that this is a very worthy vocation. Different angle, because I know that maybe you've heard something about this before this week. But I'm going to need your all's help. This is going to be a little interactive. Essentially, part of it's because it's most effective, and part of it's because to keep you all awake, because some of you might fall asleep as soon as I say the words politics and policy. Now, some of you have already hate politics. You're bored by it. If CBS News is on, you want to tear your hair out, and you may never like it. Well, this talk maybe isn't necessarily for you, but also some of you love it. You live it. You breathe it. This is something you want to do with the rest of your life. You learned about this week. It's something you're fascinated in, and you're ready to roll. This may be not necessarily for you either, but the in between, the people who say, you know what, I learned something about politics this week. I learned something about, being an elected official or being in policy, and it's something I'm kind of interested in, but I'm not sure. And so for you guys, because one of the things that I've found, talking to a lot of people in a lot of different places, is they may have a little interest in politics. They do care about the issues. But then there's that common perception, those myths, those overgeneralizations are involved in politics, involved in the process, involved in campaigns, the elected officials. So I want to, most of the rest of the time, I want to kind of, talk with you guys about that. So let's bust a few myths today. So let me ask you guys, someone just shout it out. What is a complaint, one common complaint that you've heard your parents or someone else say, or maybe someone about politicians? What do people say about all politicians? Okay, let's go with this gentleman down here said corrupt. Let's start with, yeah, people say all politicians are corrupt. They're all liars, they're all crooks. And that because everybody says it, it sounds like it's logical. But let me ask you something. How many of you guys have a job running a cash register? You have a job running a cash register. A lot of you guys, I see you guys, it's 7-Eleven or JCPenney's or Walmart or something like that. Does it sound absurd to say that all people running cash registers are crooks and criminals? Okay. You've had some experience there, I guess. But maybe to most of the rest of us, it sounds absurd. There are a few people who are going to stick their hand and take out a 20 or a stack, but it's a very small percentage, isn't it? It's a small percentage of people who are tempted to make illegitimate personal gain, whether it's stealing $20 from the cash register or peddling influence as a politician, elected official, or just stealing money in any sense. But it's like a percentage of people running cash registers. It's also a very small percentage of politicians. If you make a list of politicians who have been found to be guilty of ethics violations or violations of the law, and then you make a list of the politicians who have not, it's going to be a very small list of malefactors. And even take, 15% of the honest side, move it over, just assuming that some people don't, you're still going to have a much longer list. I've known a lot of people who've been involved in politics, especially at the beginning. I've never met anyone who hasn't gone in for the right reasons, because they care about their community. Now, there's a little bit of ego. They do like to have their name out there and to meet people and to be recognized. Most of the time, it's the right reasons driving people. Another thing, corruption, when it happens, it's very gradual. And this is something you need to know, I think, in everyday life for the workforce and when you have responsibilities. People start with little bitty unethical decisions, and then they get away with it, and then they bend a little bigger rule, and then one day you wake up and you're a congressman with $300,000 in your freezer, like a guy from Louisiana who was thrown in jail a few years ago. Well, how'd that $300,000 get there? Well, it's a long point A to point B. So that's why you got to be principled. You've got to stay ethical if you're in a position. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that politicians, for the most part, are honest, dedicated, hardworking people. You may not hear that 99% of the time, but I want to tell you it's true. Now, they don't always agree, and you won't always agree with them, but they're generally motivated by mostly the right reasons. They're generally honest, and most of them work extremely well. Okay, what's another common complaint, another common thing said about politicians? What? It does, yes, that does happen. West Virginia has a long tradition. One of our best senators was Senator Hawkins. He was as prominent as Robert Byrd in his day. And he moved from New Mexico to West Virginia. Ken Heckler, who's one of the most respected West Virginians of the 20th century. He moved from New York to Huntington. In 6 months, Ken Heckler had ousted the incumbent, and he had a long political career in West Virginia as a congressman and as Secretary of State. He's actually still alive. He's 100 years old in Hampshire County. And Jay Rockefeller, and my boss, Congressman Mooney. Another thing that people say is all politicians are rich and they buy elections. I can tell you that's not true either. One, all politicians are not rich. As a matter of fact, there are 80 members of the United States Congress who are offices. They don't have a lot of personal wealth. They stay in their office and work all day, and then they back and sleep on their office floor at night. My boss being one of them, Congressman Mooney. So they're not all wealthy. And the last point I want to make is about this thought that you can buy elections. That's say, oh, if you have enough money, you can just buy an election. And that is one of the biggest myths Just because you have either personal money or just because you have a lot of money raised does not mean that you are going to inevitably win an election. Couple of examples. Year 2000, Shelley Moore Capito is running for Congress. Open seat. She was outraised by her opponent 7-1, but she busted her tail. She went out there, she knocked on doors, she met groups, she talked to a bunch of people, and she won. State Senator was going against an incumbent, outraised 3-1. And he did the same thing, busted his tail. He didn't have personal wealth. He went out there, won. We've had other examples of people who have had a ton of money. I mean, millions and millions of dollars in their bank account who did not win elections. So it's the last thing I want to make, the last point I want to make, because I know you guys are getting a little fidgety. It doesn't take a ton of money to win an election. It takes effort, principle, belief, and a message surrounding you. That's how you win elections. So just because you don't come from millions of dollars, you can get out there and win an election even if you've got barely a cent to your name. As long as you have the message, have the principles, work hard. You're going to have to raise money. You need at least a little money, but just because a person has a lot of money doesn't mean they're inevitably going to win. Now, last thing I want to do, just mention the role of my office, a congressional office. We're here for you all, any of you. If you live in the 2nd Congressional District, if you have concerns, if you have questions, if you have problems, district office. If you guys live in the Charleston area, you can call their office. If you live in the Eastern Panhandle and you're in the 2nd District, you can call my office. You can call your own congressman's district office. We are here for you. I want to mention, if you're interested in service academies and you have questions, call your district office. Call Senator Capito's offices or Senator Manchin's offices. Our office, or Evan Jenkins, or David McKinley, we will be happy to hear from you or your parents if you have any questions about that. Okay, I want to thank you all for your attention. Again, the American Legion for inviting me. It's been a real honor and privilege. Congratulations on your graduation.
On behalf of the American Legion Mountaineer Boys State, and as a token of appreciation, would like to present a Mountaineer Boys State Challenge coin to our speaker, Dr. Smoot.